universe to be the light. You must feel the burn, giving the
Guys, welcome back to my channel where we discuss popular mainstream music. And in this video, we're going to be discussing The Weeknd, okay? The Weeknd. And in a recent Variety interview where he discusses how he's retiring his public persona, which is his name, The Weeknd, okay? His stage name, okay? Now, not his music career. He still says that he's going to be doing music, but he is retiring the public persona that we all know, The Weeknd, okay? Which is very interesting. But before we get into that, if you enjoyed the little snippet of music in the beginning of this video, that is my music. Check it out, guys. All you have to do is type my name, Sam Dolphin, on the YouTube search bar and my music will pop out. You can also check out my music out on all music streaming platforms such as Spotify and Apple Music. So definitely check it out, guys. I'd really appreciate it. Now getting back into the video, okay, and this is The Weeknd, and like I said in a Variety interview, he has explained that he is finally retiring his public persona, okay, which is The Weeknd, and I find this so fascinating. I find it fascinating when music artists choose certain stage names and how they grow with it, how they deal with it, how it affects them. I always think it's so interesting because as an artist myself, I personally just go by my name. But I do think it's fascinating when people do stage names and sometimes they feel a little bit trapped by it. Sometimes they feel relieved by it. And I think it's very interesting. And The Weeknd is now speaking about how he is finally over The Weeknd, okay? He's over The Weeknd. He felt like he's done what he has to do with it and there's no more growth to go with it. So in the Variety interview, The Weeknd says that he no longer identifies with his stage name, his persona, The Weeknd, and he feels like he actually has outgrown this energy. He's outgrown the name, he's outgrown the persona, and there's no more growth to go with it. And he's looking for a challenge, which is very, very interesting because a lot of times they are artists who specifically do feel trapped by their stage persona. And he's definitely said that he's off with it, he's ready to move on, and he feels like it's almost like a rat race being The Weeknd. You know, like a competition, like when's the next award, when's the next hit, you know, and he feels like he has outgrown this. And that's so interesting to me because personally, the way I look at it, I still feel like as an artist, as a music artist, you know, you make music, regardless of your name, it's still your artistry. But it's different for everyone. Apparently for The Weeknd, it feels like he's actually trapped by this persona and he's trying to outdo it, and there's no more growth for it. So that's very, very, very interesting to me. Because like I said, he doesn't plan on quitting music, so he's still going to continue quitting music, but he wants to get out of, again, The Weeknd, that persona, and that energy is a trap. So the way I see it, it's almost as if when artists choose these stage names and these personas, it's almost like they're playing a part, they're playing a role, okay? It's like an acting role, you know, you play a role. And sometimes you're playing that role, you're playing that role so much that it gets outdated. You know, like he says, he's already done so much with it, he doesn't feel that there's any more growth that comes with The Weeknd. And it's so interesting. I actually like the name The Weeknd. I think it's pretty cool. And again, my personal opinion, I feel like your artistry is your artistry regardless of what name you choose. But it doesn't feel that way. Some people really, really do feel trapped by their stage names. So I feel like it's almost like they're playing a role, like an acting role. They're playing a role, and sometimes that role gets tiring and it limits your growth. So it's a very, very interesting take. He also feels like he's mastered The Weeknd, okay? And The Weeknd is actually, it's actually a name, that stage name, a persona that he's come with when he left his home at the age of 17, very young age. And it was during a weekend, and this is when he was discovering himself and going out on his own and being his own artist, okay? So kind of like, you know, doing the wild life, you know, like a lot of artists do. They leave and they go somewhere else and they start making music and kind of like discovering himself. So that was a part of his public persona. He's felt like he's mastered this, because if you know The Weeknd, In his albums, it's like a trilogy, and it's a certain theme. And The Weeknd is inspired by these themes, okay? And if it's a trilogy, it's the 3 parts, so there's gonna be an end to the trilogy. So it makes sense that this is sort of like an acting role, playing a part in a role. Like if you had a role in a trilogy and you did the whole 3 roles for each part, and it's like, okay, now time for a new role, now time to grow and do something else. So he's felt like he's mastered The Weeknd, he's mastered the energy, he's done it, and it's time to move on to something else. One of the interesting points that he says in the Variety interview is that when he lost his voice, okay, during tour, one of his tours, he actually lost his voice. He couldn't sing, he couldn't perform, he couldn't even continue the show. He actually had to end the show early. And he felt like that was a huge symbol, like a huge moment that let him know that maybe this part of his career is over. Okay, The Weeknd is over because he couldn't even sing, which I think is very symbolic, very interesting. Now, if you really ask me personally, and I don't mean to like be overly critical, but I do think, you know, The Weeknd has a good voice, but The Weeknd is a bit nasal.
Love you, girl, the way you need. Ain't no one gonna stop us. Ain't no one gonna stop us. And I'ma give you, girl, what you feel. I'm the drug in your veins. Just fight through the pain. He's what you want. He's what you want. He's what you want. He's what you want. I'm what you need, what you need, what you need, I'm what you need.
And I think it gives him a very unique sound. But as a singer myself, I feel like that also can explain maybe improper technique. Okay, singing a little bit with the throat. Not saying that he doesn't use his diaphragm, but a lot of times when you have that nasal sound, it could be a little bit of singing with the throat, and when you do it too much, you definitely lose your voice. But he saw it more, but that's just me looking at it at a technical, critical level. But, you know, there's still a spiritual side to it. There's still a bigger meaning, and he saw that as the sign that this Weeknd thing is over, that he needed to move on. And this happened during his tour, and I remember when he moved on to doing that show that he did, which didn't really last long. It got, you know, some, you know, negative feedback, you know, for whatever reason. It was a bit controversial, but he went on to do, you know, his own show and go into acting because he felt like he wanted to move on from, you know, The Weeknd and the persona of it all and that music stuff. So very, very interesting, but losing his voice was a symbol for him that this was the end of The Weeknd game, this persona. So that was actually very interesting to me. And because he admits, and not even admits, but because he says in the Variety interview that he doesn't plan on quitting music, which I don't think The Weeknd should ever really quit music at all. I think he's a very good music artist, makes really good music, and he just wants to quit this persona. And if this name The Weeknd, if this role that he's playing is limiting him in his music, is making him see his music as in one way and not allowing him to expand and grow, then I definitely agree that he should get rid of that persona and move on to something that allows him growth, move on to his name, his real name, which his real name is Abel Tesfaye. If that allows him to expand, then definitely go for it, because again, I feel like music is music. Like, I don't really think like you can ever stop making music if it's a talent for you, especially if you're a songwriter. Music is music, so you can always expand. And if that means having to get rid of your stage persona name to allow you to break away mentally from that, okay, then absolutely go ahead and be the Abel that you are. You know, it's very, and again, this topic is very interesting for me because even as a music artist myself, I go by my own name. I don't have a stage name persona, and I do feel like by doing that, you're allowed to just be whatever you want, you know, whatever you want, and you don't have to follow a certain formula, a specific formula, match the energy of your name, because your name is your name. So I definitely support The Weeknd in that. I definitely want him to continue making music because I think he's a very, very great music artist, a really great songwriter. And I don't think the talent of music ever goes away. It just never does. So if he just has to break out of this persona in order to get his mind in the right position to create and expand in his music, then I'm definitely all for it. I'm definitely all for Abel going in as Abel. And they are endings to chapters, you know, there are endings to chapters in certain eras. So if this is what it is, then I totally agree with it. So yes, and he has a new album coming out, which is Hurry Up Tomorrow. And that is part of his old trilogy, which is the first is After Hours, and then Dawn FM, and now, which will be coming up, I think, late January, sometime in January, Hurry Up Tomorrow, which I'm excited to hear. But that will be the ending for The Weeknd, the end. So he'll be able to open up a new chapter just as Abel and start a whole new era, which I think is incredibly exciting. So yes, that is The Weeknd. That is the variety interview he had, and I think it's very interesting. Again, I'm very fascinated when it comes to stage personas, especially as an artist myself who doesn't use one. So what do you guys think? Are you guys excited for The Weeknd to be moving on to his name, Abel, and moving out of the chapter of The Weeknd so that he can expand and grow? Do you think it's exciting? Do you think he just needs to stick to The Weeknd? Let me know in the comment section below. And I'll check you guys out on the next video. And don't forget to check out my music as well too. And I'll see you guys at the next video. Thanks for watching.